Saw an article in the New York Times about Google discriminating against those poor women. Oh, they're evil. They're heartless. They're a big capitalistic nightmare. No, it didn't quite turn out that way. Have you heard this story? Google finds it's underpaying many men as it addresses wage equity. You heard me correctly, people. When Google conducted a study recently to determine whether the company was underpaying women, well, of course they are. Everybody knows this. We don't need a survey. Women are paid 78 cents on the dollar of men doing the same job. Don't we all know this, people? Don't we know it's been the same figure since 1995? It never changes. I wonder if it's the way they calculate it. But anyway, I digress. They were looking to see and have proof of how they're underpaying the poor wommens and the minorities. Oh my God, all those evil white and Asian men at the top of Google. They pay men more because they have dicks. Turns out that wasn't the case. To the surprise of just about everyone. Not really. Not if you really think your way through it here in New York Times. No. It's not surprising at all. It's supply and demand. You want more minorities and more women, you're going to have to draw them in somehow, because there are so few in tech. And of course, the reason for that is the patriarchy, as we all know. No evidence is required. We just know. Well, we have evidence. They did a survey. It turns out men were actually being paid less money than women for doing similar work, which, last time I checked, is illegal under the Equal Pay Act of 1963. The study, which disproportionately led to pay raises for thousands of men, but they were the ones who were getting paid less. So why wouldn't... What does this even mean, New York Times? You're trying every way to get some women oppressed in every paragraph, are you not? So, this adjustment is made every year, but the latest findings arrived as Google and other companies in Silicon Valley are facing increasing pressure to deal with gender issues in the workplace, from sexual harassment to wage discrimination. But wage discrimination is only against women. Everyone knows that. Gender inequality is a radioactive topic at Google. The Labor Department is investigating whether the company systematically underpays women. These survey results would indicate otherwise, wouldn't it? Google has been sued by former employees who claim they were paid less than men with the same qualifications. And last fall, thousands of Google employees protested the way the company handles sexual harassment claims against top executives. Critics say the results of the pay study could give a false impression, maybe the correct impression that they don't want you to have, that women actually aren't, on a widespread scale in the United States, being paid less. What a surprise. Company officials acknowledged that it did not address whether women were hired at a lower pay grade than men with similar qualifications. Google has denied paying women less, and I think the survey would agree, don't you think, Alex? And the company agreed that compensation among similar job titles was not by itself a complete measure of equity. Of course not. A more difficult issue to solve, one that critics say Google often mismanages for women, is something they call leveling. And you can read the story and get the gory details if you want. It's quite boring. It's HR stuff. However, what I did find interesting, aside from the fact that men were being discriminated against at Google, that's kind of a biggie. Kelly Ellis, a former Google engineer and one of the plaintiffs in this gender pay lawsuit against the company, here's what she said in a legal filing: that Google had hired her in 2010 as a level 3 employee, the category for new software engineers who are recent college graduates, despite her 4 years of education. I've rather experience. Within a few weeks, a male, probably white, engineer who had also graduated from college 4 years earlier was hired for Miss Ellis's team as a level 4 employee. That meant he received a higher salary and had more opportunities for bonuses, raises, stock compensation. In other words, clearly discrimination against Kelly. And she filed a lawsuit with thousands of other women. Other men on the team whose qualifications were equal to or less than hers were also brought in at a level 4, the suit says. Number one, how would they know that? Okay, number two, what are they determining? Qualifications that were equal to or less. They're going by years of experience. Is that what we're doing here? Let's assume everything else is the same. Same college, same everything, same grades, the whole thing. They each have 4 years of experience. Is it possible the guy they brought in at a higher level had more experience that was relevant to the position of a level 4 employee? Is that possible? Could it be Miss Ellis spent time as a low-level coder? You know, maybe advanced one step from beginning to maybe level 2, where this guy started out at level 1 and he had more talent and was promoted higher up the food chain because, well, he's a white male. No, because he's better. There is differences in performance, people. Just because you have 4 years of experience doesn't mean you've had the same kind of experience. I mean, this is not that difficult to grasp. But of course, as we all know, folks, if she doesn't get the same position, the same money, it's clearly because she's a woman, right? So I looked up some terms here, just in case. This is kind of geek stuff, so you can tune out now if you want to. But what are the different levels of software engineers at Google? Level 3, L3, where Kelly was hired in, is the beginning engineer, first sort of bottom level. Level 4 is one step above that, where the other men's were hired because they had penises. And then it goes up from there. And so Najab Jamshidi describes the levels here. I'll do it here in brief. Intermediate software engineering is an engineer who can work without any hand-holding, but doesn't yet have the skills and experience to be a senior. Okay, so senior starts at level 5. So there's level 3, there's level 4, which is a little more experience, and then level 5, which is a senior. That's where the big bucks start rolling in, right? Although I did look up the salary. For a level 3 beginning engineer with 4 years experience, $150,000. You know, that sounds like a lot of money, but not in San Francisco. You're probably living with 4 other people in a 1-bedroom apartment. It's a shame. It's very expensive. It says here, typically, although an intermediate software engineer doesn't need any handholding, what do we mean by that? You know what I mean. The new guy comes in, he's a good worker or she's a good worker, but doesn't quite know the ins and outs of how things work, you know, the software development process, the different processes you have to go through, various other things. So they can do the job, but they still need a little whole handholding in areas that they're not experienced with. You know, you don't have the experience. It's simple stuff, right? So a level 4 engineer would be expected to work on their own, even do projects or lead projects and stuff like that, where level 3 only works on pieces divvied up by a level 4. So in other words, you need some subroutine. This is what the level 3 does. The level 4 guy assigns the subroutines to various engineers and, you know, manages the schedule and all that kind of stuff. So they hired Kelly in as a level 3 with 4 years of experience. They hired the other men in at level 4 with 4 years of experience. The experience you have matters, doesn't it? What if this guy worked 2 years of his career as a level 3 at Google, left and went somewhere else, and he wanted to come back? He already knows the ropes, you see. Maybe she didn't work at Google. Maybe she was at Apple, doing some kind of, like I said, low-level coding or whatever, and just didn't have the type of experience that would warrant a level 4. But no, people, it's got to be discrimination because she's a woman, right? So I'll put the article below in this Quora question thing. You can read through it. James Maxwell, thank you for listening.